PKD Nambiar, political analyst, supports the BJP, is with us. We'll also be expanding it to wider voices in just a second. But let me just start. PKD Nambiar, how would you respond to this? As I said, this is not the first time that a global watchdog has chronicled India. These are all fairly self-evident, right, to anybody who lives in this country.
Srinivasan, whose freedom house to judge the Indian democratic value and Indian democracy? It is an American-funded. This report is basically meant to tarnish the image of emerging power like India. There is nothing beyond that to be even discussed.
Imagine. My question is not so much on the report itself, but I'm saying, is there anything in the report, when you say it's to tarnish, is there anything in the report which is contestable? Isn't everything that it's saying about what's happening to our democracy fairly obvious?
Srinivasan, two things. One is that in your initial comments, you were reading out the entire, most of the synopsis of this particular report, as that was your initial content. If the freedom of speech is not there, freedom of press is not available, you would not have been able to read that kind of a document. Rahul Gandhi, as an opposition leader, would not have been able to call the chore as the prime minister of this country. Every election after election, the 5 states are going through an election. India as a democracy, it's the most vibrant democracy in the world. That is the reason 5 states are going through an election today. Right. We don't celebrate democracy once in 4 years. In India, every day we are celebrating democracy. And if an American organization, American government funded organization have to judge my country's democratic value, I can only say that I think you are wasting the 8:30 prime time of your channel on describing.
When American organizations, measure other Indian indicators, like when we rise or fall in the ease of business rankings, and that's something which the government makes a big deal about, then when we discuss that, that's not a waste of prime time, is it? But anyway, let me just come to Raghu Karnad. Earlier about how bad really is it, because I can make these comments, Rahul Gandhi can make these comments. As Raghu Karnad was saying, that it's not an all or nothing situation. But if you look at a number of measurable metrics which indicate a decline, they do exist. And we'll put some of those up on screen. One of those, just as Lokur mentioned himself, India has the highest internet shutdowns now in the world. It's topping the global chart for shutdowns 3rd consecutive year. We're just above, significantly, in fact, above Yemen, Ethiopia and Jordan. That's just one instance. Look at the number of opposition leaders who've been either arrested or have been booked for charges under this government's watch. We'll put that up on the screen for you as well. It's a huge list. It's virtually actually every single opposition or non-BJP party leader in this country who faces some charge or the other, right? And that's not all. It's also the government's critics and dissenters from within civil society, whether it's those who've been jailed in the Bhima Koregaon case, or those activists who were jailed because they were allegedly involved in the Delhi riots, whether it's to do with those arrested for the farm bill protests, the so-called Greta Thunberg toolkit case, including people like Indira Grover, Anand Jai Singh, Amnesty International. The list is endless, coming all the way down to Taapsee Pannu and Anurag Kashyap, who I think have been questioned now for almost 48 hours, and we know what their views are. There's also the question of judicial independence. Scholars like Gautam Bhatia have tracked what they call the rise of the executive court, where court orders are inordinately aligned in favor of the government again and again and again, whether it's Rafale, whether it's electoral bonds, whether it's Ayodhya, and so on and so forth. We are sliding in the press freedom index. All these are measurable facts, Mr. Nambiar. Does it not worry you?
It is on the contrary. Take it in another way. If at all, since, as I said, I don't buy this particular report at all. This is purely a strategy by the global power, like American government.
I'm not talking about the report at all now. I'm citing instance after instance, which has got nothing to do with the report.
Srinivasan, I'm just coming to the topic. And since you are showing that picture of various leaders, political leaders and celebrities picture, it has become much more clear for me. Imagine that those pictures of the people, they were all, most of those people were on booked for the corruption charges, especially the people from the Congress leaders of a Kamal Nath or a Huda or all those kind of a people, were they being booked because of any other reason? Some of the people who you are saying, for an example, an Anugrah Kashyap or a Tapsi Pannu, if
Yes.
there is an income tax raid is happening, don't this income tax raid never used to happen in this country?
Can I please come in?
Hundreds of
Mr.
income tax
Nambiar,
raids
are,
Can I please
are
come in?
people ever booked not for any reason? During the emergency also, weren't the leaders of the party you support arrested for no reason? They again were arrested for reasons, right? The point is, were
Can
those
I please
reasons
come in?
legitimate or not?
Today,
That's the
there is
point.
all the people whom
Is
you
this
are mentioning.
vendetta? Is this justice? That's the question.
Srinivasan, you have to give me a minute. I'm saying all the pictures you're showing on the screen do have a proper reason for these cases, or if at all, if they are framed on it. And secondly, I strongly
Only
believe
opposition leaders are corrupt in this country. Not a
Can I
single
please come in?
person from the ruling regime is guilty of any malfeasance. And anybody who joins the ruling regime from an opposition party immediately finds the cases are
So I
removed.
tell you now-
Anyway, coming back to Raghu Karnar.
No, no,
Just note that the Supreme Court ruled on
Can I
Farooq
please
Abdullah,
come
the
in?
charges against Farooq Abdullah today.
You are
or
not
maybe
even
it was
letting me
yesterday,
complete even one sentence, and you are talking about the freedom of speech
and
press.
jumped that
No, no, you're
case.
completing your sentences, but I have to move on.
This is really not right. You
No, no.
haven't even allowed me to complete one statement, and you are saying talking about the freedom of speech.
No, no, you are completing your sentences, Mr.
You
Nambiar.
have to
Don't get
stop
agitated.
For a
Okay.
minute. I'm only asking. There is a income tax raid is happening in this country. Don't you think the income tax raid is happening from the last 50 years in this country?
Of course.
If there is, अगर दाल में कोई काला नहीं है, तो फिर क्यों
क्यों
worry होने
करेगा?
की
Exactly.
जरूरत है?
Okay.
Yeah,
Raghu Karnar. Yes,
And
yes.
you-
Okay. and everyone, we'll come back to all of you because this is not a story.